Sophia Al-Farooq had everything money could buy, except the thrill of being alive, until Adeel Khan, her 19-year-old driver with fire in his eyes and innocence in his smile, became the forbidden secret that shattered Dubai's golden illusion, igniting a deadly chain of lust, betrayal, and revenge that left 2 bodies, 1 mansion in ruins, and a city whispering about the housewife who dared to love beneath her class and paid for it in blood. The Crime Scene presents a new page of crime, a new mystery, a new shock case. Under the blistering Dubai sun, Sophia Al-Farooq moved through her mansion like a woman who had everything yet felt nothing, her life wrapped in diamonds, designer silk, and suffocating silence. Married to Omar Al-Farooq, a real estate magnate old enough to be her father, she played the role of the perfect wife flawlessly, smiling for cameras at charity galas, sipping champagne at yacht parties, and pretending that her world wasn't hollow inside, while behind those marble walls, her life felt like a glossy cage where every move was monitored, every decision approved, and every desire buried under gold. Omar controlled everything, the passwords, the schedules, even her friends, and though his love looked protective on the outside, it carried the sharp edge of ownership, leaving Sophia craving something real, something reckless. Nights became her enemies, long hours staring at city lights that didn't feel like hers. Her thoughts tangled between guilt and longing, until the family hired a new driver, Adeel Khan, a 19-year-old boy with warm brown eyes, shy posture, and the kind of raw innocence that life hadn't yet hardened. He was polite, quiet, almost invisible, yet to Sophia, he was a spark in her dim existence, the reminder of what freedom once felt like. Every glance in the rearview mirror turned into silent conversation. Every accidental brush of hands made her heart beat in places she thought were dead. She tried to resist the pull, convincing herself it was just boredom or curiosity, but temptation had already found its way into her bloodstream. In a city built on appearances and control, Sophia was about to cross a line that no amount of luxury could hide, and the woman who once lived in marble and gold was about to discover that danger, when mixed with desire, burns brighter than any diamond. Adeel Khan was just 19, a boy with sun-warmed skin and calloused hands who came to Dubai chasing a better life, never imagining that his job as a driver for the Al-Farooq family would drag him into a world dripping with temptation, lies, and danger. He was simple, humble, barely fluent in English, but his quiet eyes held something that intrigued Sophia Al-Farooq more than all her glittering possessions. And what started as a professional distance soon began to crack under stolen moments. That felt too alive to ignore. She'd watch him in the rearview mirror, tracing the curve of his jaw, the nervous twitch of his hands on the steering wheel, the way he avoided her gaze like a man terrified of his own attraction. And the more he resisted, the more she wanted to break him open. Late-night errands turned into excuses for longer drives down Sheikh Zayed Road, where city lights blurred like secrets they didn't dare to speak. And every heartbeat in that car throbbed with forbidden heat. Adeel tried to stay grounded, reminding himself she was married, unreachable, untouchable. But desire doesn't listen to logic. It only listens to opportunity, and Sophia offered it wrapped in silk and sin. Soon she was texting him at odd hours, inventing reasons to see him, gifting him little things that carried hidden meanings, a cologne, a gold chain, a phone he couldn't afford, and each gift felt like a trap disguised as kindness. Adeel's loyalty to his job began to crumble under the weight of attention he'd never known, and though fear lingered at the edges, he couldn't stop the thrill of being wanted by a woman who lived in a palace. It wasn't love yet, but it was dangerous enough to feel like it, and neither of them realized that every secret glance was another step toward the edge of disaster. Their affair unfolded like wildfire behind closed doors, consuming everything in its path while the rest of Dubai believed Sophia and Omar Al-Farooq were the picture of perfection. But behind that illusion, Sophia and Adeel were spiraling deeper into a secret they couldn't control. What started as fleeting glances now became reckless meetings in luxury hotels under fake names, her perfume lingering on his skin like guilt, her diamonds glittering against his rough hands as she whispered promises she couldn't keep. Sophia showered him with gifts: designer sneakers, a gold watch, envelopes stuffed with cash, trying to buy moments of passion that made her feel young again, alive again. And Adeel, caught between awe and arrogance, began to taste the power he never had, flaunting expensive things, skipping shifts, and hinting to friends about a mysterious, rich lady who couldn't resist him. He didn't realize how small Dubai's high society world really was, or how fast whispers traveled among maids, drivers, and security guards who noticed too much. Soon, the mansion's staff started talking. The maid found lipstick stains on Adeel's collar. The butler noticed Sophia's secret perfume in his car, and the security guard saw unusual cuts in the CCTV footage that only someone with access could make. The walls that once protected Sophia were closing in, and paranoia became her new companion. She lived in fear of Omar's discovery, yet the thrill kept her running back for more, like an addict chasing her next hit of danger. Adeel, blind with youth and pride, didn't sense the storm brewing above him, but Sophia did. She knew Omar's silence wasn't ignorance, it was patience, and in Dubai's world of money and control, patience was the first sign of revenge. What they thought was love had become a loaded gun waiting to go off. It all came crashing down the day Omar Al-Farooq received a message that changed everything. A grainy photo of his wife's car parked outside a shabby motel on the outskirts of Dubai. The image forwarded by one of his business associates with no caption, just quiet confirmation of betrayal. And though Omar's face remained unreadable, something inside him cracked in a way that could never be repaired. For years he had built his empire on control, power, and reputation, but the idea that his glamorous young wife was sneaking around with a 19-year-old driver made his pride bleed like an open wound. And instead of confronting her in rage, Omar turned cold, calculating, patient. He began an invisible investigation, ordering private security to track Adeel's movements, paying off hotel staff for records, having her phone tapped, and her car bugged, building a puzzle piece by piece until every secret she thought was hidden lay in front of him like evidence in a courtroom. He watched her lie to his face every morning, her eyes soft and guilty, and he smiled back like nothing had changed, because he wanted her to drown in comfort before the fall. Within a week, he knew everything. The texts, the hotel bookings under fake names, the expensive gifts, even the calls made from Adeel's cheap phone at midnight. Omar wasn't just betrayed, he was humiliated. And humiliation is the kind of poison that breeds vengeance. He didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't file for divorce. He planned, in silence, every move as if conducting a business deal. The driver's fate was already sealed in Omar's mind, but he wanted Sophia to watch it unfold, to feel it in her chest when the boy she risked everything for vanished into the dark. Omar didn't want justice. He wanted suffering, and he was about to make sure both of them got exactly what they deserved. Omar Al-Farooq set his plan in motion with the precision of a man who'd built empires and destroyed rivals, inviting Adeel Khan to drive him one evening under the guise of a routine business dinner on the outskirts of Dubai, far from the glittering towers and curious eyes. And the young driver, nervous but obedient, had no clue that this was a one-way trip into hell. As the car rolled into a deserted construction site under flickering floodlights, Adeel's confusion turned to dread when he saw two masked men waiting by a half-built warehouse, their shadows stretching like ghosts on the concrete. And before he could speak, they yanked him from the driver's seat and slammed him against the hood, fists and boots crashing down until his body folded under the pain. Omar watched from a distance, his expression blank, not satisfaction nor anger, just cold execution of punishment, as if erasing a stain from his honor. And when Adeel's blood hit the sand, he finally spoke a single order: leave him alive. This wasn't mercy but design, because Omar wanted Sophia to feel it, to live through the terror of losing what she thought she controlled. Later that night, he returned home calm as ever, kissed her cheek, poured himself whiskey, and mentioned nothing, letting her paranoia fester as he planted rumors among staff. Whispers that Adeel had been seen with dangerous people, that the police were asking questions, that maybe he'd run off. Days passed before the truth crept back. Adeel had disappeared, his phone dead, his apartment abandoned, and Sophia's mind spiraled with guilt and fear, knowing Omar's silence was louder than any confession. She couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe, and when she asked about the driver, Omar simply smirked, letting her drown in the horror of her own imagination, because revenge wasn't about death. It was about watching someone lose everything before they even knew it. Days later, when Adeel Khan's body was found floating near Jebel Ali Creek, beaten beyond recognition but unmistakably him, the Dubai police labeled it a robbery gone wrong. Yet everyone who knew the Al-Farooq family whispered otherwise, because nothing about it made sense. His wallet was intact, his phone wiped clean, his face frozen in terror. Sophia Al-Farooq's world collapsed in silence as the news hit the morning headlines. Her diamond-crusted life crumbling into guilt, paranoia, and sleepless nights that bled into whiskey-fueled days. She knew deep down this was no random crime. That Omar's quiet composure at breakfast was not grief but victory, and every time he looked at her, it felt like a knife twisting behind his calm smile. She became a ghost in her own mansion, drifting from room to room, haunted by flashbacks of Adeel's laughter, his touch, his innocence, now buried under secrets too dark to speak. Yet fate wasn't done with the Al-Farooqs, because a few weeks later, Omar himself was found dead in his private study, slumped over his desk, a half-finished glass of wine still in his hand, poisoned with a substance so rare the police called it deliberate and planned. The CCTV had been mysteriously disabled, the servants questioned, and the only person home that night was Sophia, though she claimed she'd been asleep. Suspicion clung to her like perfume, but with no proof. The authorities could only circle her with questions she never truly answered. Dubai's elite buzzed with theories. Some said Sophia had finally snapped. Others whispered Omar's business enemies had struck back. But no one knew the truth, and Sophia, veiled in designer black, cried for cameras while her eyes stayed dry. In a city built on wealth and whispers, justice was just another illusion, and behind her tears, something cold and calculated waited for the next move. Months after the chaos that consumed the Al-Farooq mansion, Dubai's glittering elite had moved on to fresher scandals, but the name Sophia Al-Farooq still carried a ghostly weight in whispered conversations over champagne brunches and desert parties, her story living on like a curse wrapped in silk. After Omar's death and weeks of relentless media frenzy, Sophia was released on bail due to lack of evidence. Yet her freedom felt more like exile than escape. Her mansion sold off, her jewelry seized, her reputation shredded beyond repair. And just like that, the woman who once ruled Dubai's high society vanished without a trace. No one saw her leave. No flight records matched her name. And her social media accounts disappeared overnight as if she'd never existed. Tabloids speculated she fled to London under a new identity, while others claimed she returned to Pakistan disguised as a widow, living quietly among strangers who had no idea of her past. But none of the stories could be confirmed. Still, rumors persisted that late at night, near the quiet edges of Palm Jumeirah, fishermen had seen a woman in white standing by the water, barefoot, her hair whipping in the sea wind, staring into the horizon where the city lights faded. Some swore it was Sophia, others believed it was her ghost, bound to the place where her sins began. They said she sometimes whispered a name, Adeel, like an apology carried away by the waves, and that her reflection in the water always looked younger, untouched by guilt. Whether she was alive, hiding, or dead, no one knew for sure. But her story became a dark legend in Dubai's golden world, a reminder that behind the glitter, secrets rot, and love mixed with power always ends in ruin. Sophia Al-Farooq became both the victim and villain of her own fairy tale, a haunting echo of what happens when forbidden desires turn deadly.